My name is Wallace Gator Bradley, and I'm the host of the Bradley Report. I'm also an urban translator. We at an event where we celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday. I'm with a friend of mine, and he's running for the 5th Sub-Circuit in Cook County Judiciary. His name is Timothy W. Wright. I call him Tim, but with your votes, we can help make it where he's Judge Wright. So without further ado, I'm going to let Brother Wright introduce himself to you.
Thank you there, Bradley. My name is Timothy W. Wright III, and I'm running for Circuit Court Judge from the 5th Judicial Sub-Circuit, which is on the south side of Chicago. It runs from 25th Street on the north down to 75th Street on the south, from the lake over to Ashland. So that's the 5th Judicial Sub-Circuit, and I'm running for Judge there. And so thank you for having me on your program.
No problem. What's important, just as important with you running, is the endorsements that you have been given. I understand Chairman of the Democratic Party and the President of Cook County Board, Tony Prattwinkle, is in support of you.
Tony Prattwinkle has endorsed me. Maddie Hunter, who's a State Senator Maddie Hunter, who's also the 20th Ward Committeeman, has endorsed me. Pat Dow, who is head of the Budget Committee and City Council and Committeeman of the 3rd Ward, has endorsed me. David Moore, your prior guest, who is the alderman and now candidate for treasurer, has endorsed me.
He's running for Secretary of State.
He's now running Secretary of State.
Right.
And so he's endorsed me. From what I understand it, the former chairman of the Black Caucus in the City Council, Rod Sawyer,
right, that's good,
has endorsed me. And so there are a number of the committeemen and elected officials. I've also been endorsed by 3 Congress people. Congressman Bobby Rush has endorsed me. Congressman Jesus Garcia has endorsed me. Congresswoman Jan Shatkowski has endorsed me, and I expect to get the endorsement of Danny Davis too.
Right.
So I think there have been a number of public officials, a number of elected officials, a number of committeemen within the 5th Judicial Sub-Circuit who have endorsed me, and I think that's just based upon the work that I have done over the years in service to that community. I think what's up for grab now is the people's seat. And it's the people's seat because they have to vote as to who's going to become the next judge in that seat. And I think it's critical that we begin to understand the importance of the judiciary. I believe that the judiciary is the most important and significant branch of government now. We see what's happening with the other branches, but this is where people have to go for honesty, for truth, for the fair dispensation of justice. And I believe that it has a great impact on our community. You know, people ask me, how come you're not running for Congress? How come you're not doing this? I want to be where the people are. I want to be where the rubber meets the road. I want to be where we are capable of making a difference in our community. Our community has to step up, and I believe that having the right representation on the bench will help us to do that. A representation that is diverse not only in color, but it's diverse in thought. I mean, we have, I think the last class of judges that have been seated, the great preponderance of them were prosecutors. I have nothing wrong to do with prosecutors. I think prosecutors are great, but I think that we need to mix it up. We need to have diversity. We need to have somebody with the community interests, and I think that's important. You know, this is King Day, and Dr. King talked about justice and love. And he said, justice is love and calculation. He says, justice is love correcting that which offends love, that which prevents love. That's justice. And we need to have justice in our community. We need to have the fair dispensation of justice in our courts. And we need to have a vision for the community that allows us to move forward. I think that's important in that seat. Not only does a judge dispense justice and fair within the courtroom itself, but there has to be leadership in the community. I think that's true justice. That is love and calculation.
Right. You know, the fact that there's 2 seats now, that one has been opened up, and it's my understanding that people within that 5th sub-circuit is really pushing for both of you brothers to be on the bench, because there's 2 seats now. How could you explain that, elaborate?
Yeah, recently, initially, when we first began this race, there was only 1 vacancy. There was 1 seat that we were all running for. And we don't even know how many candidates we're going to have in this race yet. But there was at least 1, and I made my intentions known.
Right.
That I was running for the circuit court seat in the 5th Judicial Sub-Circuit. And so what recently happened is that another judge from the 5th Sub-Circuit retired. That created 2 vacancies. And so that's where the opportunity came from. And based upon the creation of that vacancy, a number of the elected officials, the committeemen, came to me and offered me their support if I was to run for that position. So therefore, I decided that that's what I'm going to do.
Man, to God be the glory. To God be the glory. One last thing before I go and before I wrap it up. Share with the people a little thing about you, you know, because I've been knowing you for 40, almost 50 years. I've been knowing the man this long. This man that helped Mandela, I mean, really Nelson Mandela, you know what I mean, before he got out the joint and helped him along the joint. I mean, the man got a South African story. The man got a Bobby Rush type of story, Black Panther story, Harold Washington story. The man is just like New York. Was that the city with 99 stories or something?
Yeah, right. But no, man, look, here's the deal. Look, I grew up in Compton. You know what? I faced adversity growing up. You know, like a lot of brothers in the inner city and a lot of sisters in the inner city. You know, I had to deal with gangs coming up. But you know what? I persevered. I was shot. But I was able to go on, play football, go to college. But really, my life turned around. I met Congressman Harold Washington.
Right.
And I was in my second year of law school. You know, and I had worked with Andrew Davis. I'd worked with a bunch of other folk on issues that were important to our community. But I met Harold, and Harold spoke at this fundraiser, and what he said harkened back to what I saw in Martin Luther King. I thought what Harold was doing in the city of Chicago was the most important step forward since Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement. So I decided that I was going to leave California as a kid, and I actually came to Chicago and to clerk at the Federal District Court. I then worked for Mayor Washington. I was the assistant to the chief of staff, deputy director. I ran city council, and I was the first African-American commissioner of economic development. And so I was with Harold until he died. And I stayed on an additional year under Gene Sawyer because Sawyer asked me if I would stay with him. And I did, because I knew Sawyer would carry forth the same agenda that Mayor Washington had. So I stayed there. After Gene lost the office, I ended up going to South Africa, and I was one of the international attorneys that worked on the Constitution that led to the release of Mandela from prison. And then ultimately, I was a UN election monitor for that first election. But I've always been a fighter in the community. You know what? When there was a gang warfare, Robert Taylor, I was part of the group that went over there with the Walker School bus.
That's right.
When they found contaminated water at Altgeld Garden, I was one of the attorneys. I was the attorney who filed a lawsuit against the dumps over there that was dumping that stuff and contaminating the groundwater, and we won. I've worked on nuclear engineering and construction law. So I've worked on a lot of things. I've worked for the benefit of this community. I've lived in that community. All my kids were born in that community. Every house I've owned or rented has been in that community. And so I'm not new to the community. I belong there. I've worked there. And I'm going to continue to work there to create a better life.
And then on this, you were also with our good friend when Jerry Butler ran for Cook County Commissioner, and my viewing audience, he knew that was the greatest campaign in both our lives. And then Jerry called me to come on and work and be a part of his staff. And the rest is history for me, for sure. I ended up getting a pardon from the governor. And that's why I'm the urban translator today. With that, I want to say to God be the glory. That's our story.
I remember you back.